You were told the Nether is a dimension of monsters. You were lied to. It wasn't a hellish homeland, it was a fallout shelter. When the Overworld fell, the ancient builders retreated underground, sealing themselves in massive brick fortresses to survive the apocalypse. Welcome to the Fortress Protocol, a complete timeline of how humanity's greatest bunker became their burning tomb. Let's look at the survivors. They thought the Nether would save them. They were wrong. When the builders fled the Overworld, they didn't just build fortresses. They had to survive. The heat, the toxic atmosphere. So, they adapted themselves. The Piglins aren't native monsters. They are the descendants of the survivors, biologically altered to withstand the extreme conditions of their new bunker. But the mutation came with a terrible cost. Over generations, their minds deteriorated. They forgot their history, their language, their humanity. But they remembered one thing: gold, the only pure metal that didn't melt or corrupt in the Nether. The very material that powered their survival gear. They don't hoard it out of greed. They hoard it out of instinct. The mutation kept them alive in the toxic air, but the real threat wasn't the atmosphere. It was what was trying to break through the fortress doors. And someone had to hold the line. When the Nether fortresses were finally breached, someone had to stay behind. Someone had to hold the line. Look closely at the Wither skeletons. They aren't just mindless undead. They are the scorched, calcified remains of the Builders' elite military. The heat of the Nether was so intense, it fused their bodies to their armor, turned their bones to pure charcoal. They didn't die from the skulk infection. They burned alive, defending the gates, standing tall, gripping their swords, even as the flames consumed them. And now, their blackened skeletons still patrol the exact same hallways, a charred guard, forever protecting a dead civilization. But even the most elite soldiers eventually burn. Flesh and bone couldn't withstand the endless siege. They needed a defense system that couldn't feel the heat. The charred guard couldn't hold out forever. Flesh burns, bone calcifies. They needed something that didn't feel pain, something that couldn't be corrupted. Enter the Blaze. Look closely at their structure. They aren't organic monsters native to the Nether. They are pure machinery. Floating brass rods, bound together by a core of contained hypercombustion. They weren't born. They were manufactured, forged continuously by the mechanical spawners hidden deep within the fortresses. They are automated incinerator drones, designed to vaporize any intruder that breached the walls. And the terrifying part? The builders have been dead for centuries, but the drones are still executing their final command. The mechanical drones secured the perimeter, but the bunker itself was failing. The heat was rising. The resources were gone. To survive, the builders tried to leave their physical bodies behind entirely. When the builders realized the Nether was a dead end, panic set in. Their bodies were failing. The toxic air was killing them. So, they attempted the impossible. They constructed massive floating biomechanical vessels and tried to upload their very consciousness to escape their dying forms. But the transfer failed. Look at the Ghast. Look at its face. Why does it weep? Why does it sound like a crying child? Because it's not a monster. It is a prison. The uploaded minds became trapped in a state of eternal agony, drifting endlessly through the ash, screaming for a release that will never come. While the trapped minds screamed in the sky, the bodies they left behind created a new crisis. Thousands of decaying corpses inside enclosed walls became a massive biological hazard. They needed a way to clean the fortresses. With thousands of builders trapped inside enclosed fortresses, waste became a deadly problem. Biological decay, rusted armor, the bodies of the fallen. They needed a way to cleanly dispose of it all. Enter the magma cube. These aren't naturally occurring slimes. They are engineered, living incinerators. A biological acid designed to consume waste and burn it down to nothing. But the builders made a fatal miscalculation. They engineered them to feed on heat. In a dimension made entirely of fire and lava, the incinerators never stopped feeding. They multiplied out of control. Now they bounce mindlessly through the basalt deltas, endlessly consuming whatever crosses their path. The incinerators breached containment. The fortresses were overrun by acid and fire. The bunker had officially failed. The last surviving builders had to run. But the lava oceans stood in their way. The Nether was vast, and the lava oceans were uncrossable. Wooden boats burned to ash. Stone bridges were too dangerous to build under the constant fire of the Ghasts. The builders needed a way across. Look at the Strider. It isn't a natural beast. It is a genetically modified, heat-resistant transport system. The very last biological invention the builders ever made. A living boat, engineered with a saddle-ready structure and programmed with a strict obedience to a simple fungus. But they were left behind. Now they wander the boiling oceans aimlessly, shivering the moment they step out of the heat, forever waiting for riders that will never return. The Striders carried them to the furthest, darkest edges of the Nether, but there was nowhere left to hide. The Overworld was lost. The Nether was completely uninhabitable, cornered, starving, and out of time. The final ancient builders made one last, terrifying decision. They gathered the rods from their fallen drones, harvested the pearls from the void, and tore a hole into the unknown. They jumped into the end and sealed their ultimate doom. If you made it this far, you know the truth. Subscribe to QuickFacts Hub, because the story of their final mutation is already waiting for you.